listening to Abuki Cabal.
Welcome to the Abuki Cabal Show.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. If you could take a moment to hit the like, share, and subscribe button, I'd appreciate it. And my notifications haven't been coming through, I'm told, and I'd appreciate it if you guys could hit that notification button and check in on me from time to time to make sure that I hadn't put out something new that you might have missed. So today, we're going to look at a little story here that deals with this topic that just keeps pulling me in, just keeps pulling me back in. And it's about these trans people. This is just getting crazier and crazier, you know. And we got this guy here. I mean, girl. I mean, however, whatever's, you know, whatever they're going by now. He identifies as a woman, rather large, gentle woman, and you know, she's got an issue where she wasn't able to get a Brazilian wax like all the other ladies, and she felt like she was discriminated against. So the story goes like, you know, Canadian transgender woman loses case against beauticians who refused Brazilian wax. Okay, so that sounds simple enough. I don't know how you would do a Brazilian wax on some male genitalia. But I don't know. I don't know anything about that. That's not my specialty. So let's take a look at this story, because I'm sure it's going to be entertaining. Okay. So here we got the story here. Trans woman loses lawsuit against esthetician who refused to wax her male genitalia. I can't believe that we're saying her male genitalia, but okay. All right. So, human rights tribunal in British Columbia. Well, I'm reading it. Let me let my trusty reader do it for me. Here we go.
Transgender woman loses lawsuit against estheticians who refuse to wax her male genitalia. Trib Live's daily and weekly email newsletters deliver the news you want and information you need, right to your inbox. A human rights tribunal in British Columbia has ruled against a transgender woman who said she was refused wax services at more than a dozen beauty salons. According to the Canadian Broadcast Corporation, Jessica Yaniv identifies as female, but has male genitalia. Yaniv contacted the businesses via Facebook messages requesting appointments for a Brazilian wax, the service that removes most or all female pubic hair. Estheticians who appeared at the hearing testified they declined to wax Yaniv for several reasons, including religious grounds, personal safety concerns, and lack of training when it came to male genitals. The tribunal ruled Tuesday that human rights legislation does not require a service provider to wax a type of genitals they are not trained for and have not consented to wax, the CBC reported.
Okay, stop it there. All right. So, this Jessica Yaniv, who identifies as a female, wanted to get her balls and bunghole waxed as if it was a vagina. So obviously some people had some issues with that. I mean, if you have to call a dozen places and they don't want to, you know, wax your testicles and your bunghole there, then obviously that's not what they're in the business for. I mean, a Brazilian is usually done with female genitalia. I mean, that's just that's what it was made. That's what it's for. You know, I'm sure there's some products out there where you can wax your own balls and, you know, and pluck the hairs out around your bunghole there if you'd like, or get somebody to do it. But these particular people they're providing a service for women. Okay. And I don't understand why women aren't up in arms about this, to where, you know, they're saying that, look, I understand you identify as a woman, but these services are for real women, not cis women, not that fucking word that you made up, but real women, women who have vaginas, women who need to get their stuff prettied up. Okay. It's not for guys, not for girls, not for guys who identify as girls. It's not for that, and you can't force a person to wax your balls. I mean, come on. What kind of world do we live in? We got people out here trying to force people to wax their balls and pretend like it's a vagina. I don't understand this. I really don't understand this. I don't know how people are able to keep a straight face while being faced with this type of rhetoric and, foolishness when a person comes in and tries to get get their services. Okay. So go on down and says, according to the Canadian Broadcast Corporation, Jessica Yaniv identifies as a female but has male genitalia. Okay, so that means you're a dude. Okay, so Yaniv contacted businesses via Facebook, requesting appointments for a Brazilian wax, the service that removes most or all of the hair, all female pubic hair. Okay, female pubic hair. That's what it was made for. Okay. The estheticians who appeared at the hearing testified they declined to wax Yaniv for several reasons, including religious grounds, personal safety, because they're afraid of men. Okay. They don't want to do this thing with men. They're feminist. And they probably had some concerns about some man sitting out there sprawled out like a chicken, trying to get the hairs plucked off of him, like he's a woman. Some of them spouted religious grounds. I can see that, because if you don't believe in homosexuality and all of this stuff that's being forced on us as a society, then obviously you're going to have some kind of religious hangups with that. You don't even have to say religious hangups. You could have some scientific hangups. You could have some reality hangups because it's just not what it's for. Okay. And says a lack of training when it comes to male genitals. So they didn't even know the first thing about how to pluck some hairs off of some genitals, some male genitals. So why would they do something they're not trained to do? Okay. You're going to force these people to do it because you think you're a princess. Okay. So the tribunal ruled Tuesday that human rights legislation does not require a service provider to wax a type of genitals they are not trained for and have not consented to wax, the CBC reported. I think that's fair. And thank God that people are finally starting to say, hey, I understand that you identify as this, but this just isn't for you. And you can't make people do this, So let's face it, folks, we start out with, people wouldn't bake a cake for them. So then they took that to the Supreme Court, and then the Supreme Court said, you got to bake a cake for them. You're providing services, so you got to bake a cake. So those people went out of business because they didn't want to bake cakes for gay people. Okay. So then it moved on to, why do you care about what people are doing in the privacy of their homes? They should be able to get married and all of that. So then we, took that to the Supreme Court. Then finally, Obama and everybody pushed that and they got married. Okay. So now they're married. So now they pushed on to this other trans agenda that's taken over everything, and it's now we should be able to read books to children dressed up like women, and drag book readings and whatnot. Why do you want to read books to the kids, in your drag stuff? Those are adult oriented shows that entertain other people that are in that lifestyle, and those shows get pretty raunchy, and that's no place for a child, and we're sitting up introducing sexuality to kids who are not even shouldn't have anything to do with sexual orientation during this time. They're children. I saw I'm probably going to show this to you guys too, where these individuals are basically, going to these people and reading to these kids and saying they could be a boy or a girl. This is crazy. This is absolutely insane. So, let's move on with the reading here. But as you can see, this is the picture of Yaniv here, Jessica Yaniv. Looks like a whole linebacker, in a dress. Doesn't look like a woman at all to me. But I guess, big broad shoulders and, big man hands, I guess she looks like an overweight woman, but let's see. Let's just get on with the reading here.
A waxing expert testified during the trial that waxing male genitalia required different training than performing the service on female genitalia, adding that someone untrained in waxing male genitalia could seriously injure the client. Self-identification does not erase physiological reality, said Jay Cameron of the Justice Center. No woman should be compelled to touch male genitals against her will, irrespective of how the owner of the genitals identifies.
Exactly.
Read the CBC's full.
Exactly. Let's read that again. Self-identification does not erase physiological reality, said Jay Cameron of the Justice Center. No woman should be compelled to touch male genitals against her will, irrespective of how the owner of the genitals identifies. Well said, well said. Okay. That is a, nice little article that I felt like you guys would probably be interested in. And then I'm going to let you guys hear a little segment on how crazy this has become. We got one of our PhDs here. Let's go on and see if I can get the sound on here and let you guys hear this. This is Mark Lemoist Hill here. He's a resident PhD. I think he went to Harvard. He's supposed to be a well-oiled machine in the halls of higher learning here. So let's hear what Mark has to say on Schoon TV's network's show where he's talking to Mark, and I think this echoes a lot of what people are feeling, even though they don't want to say it because they're scared of being ostracized or being penalized for saying something against this craziness that's out here. So let's take a listen.
None of that shit. Is there anything can I finish, sir? Can I finish? Anyone who promotes gender issues, trans issues, and Palestine issues, and all of these things as something that we should be focused on when we're dying out here in the streets, looking for political solutions to cultural deficiencies. No one's ever says, look, man, we got to really stick together and have each other back and so on. Brothers, you got to treat these women better. No, we start telling them if you're a woman and you want to think you're a man, you're a woman. This is chaos. This is confusion. And the devil is the author of confusion. So all of you guys who promote these type of things, I'm wondering, do you really love us as a people? I do, because nothing that you guys do, and nothing that you do, will it help us in the long run? Nothing? None of that shit. Is there
Exactly. None of that has anything to do with black folks. None of it has anything to do with the issues that are important to black folks. But you have people like Martin Lamont Hill, who is supposed to be a person who is one of the leaders in our putting our message out there and civil rights issues and whatnot. And he's out here promoting this gender identity stuff. And it's just like Schoon said. You do not love our community. You are out here pushing an agenda that has nothing beneficial to our community. It is ridiculous that you have a man who has this much education that's going up here and telling us to dismiss reality, dismiss physical parameters that we've learned all our lives, that we weren't even have to be taught. If we were out there and we were just speaking like cavemen, we would know the difference between a male and a woman, a man and a female. Yeah, that is a universal constant that happens. No one has to be told what to do when it comes down to male and female. We instinctively know what we're supposed to do. But for some reason, because we've gotten so educated and we've become so comfortable in this world of where we are starting to just dismiss reality, and now we're just doing any kind of thing. You should just be able to have sex with anything and identify as anything and impose your beliefs and all of that on everybody else. Even though these folks identify as 0.0 7% of the population. They're getting, 50% of the identification on of inclusion on these shows. So I got to see, gay folks in the shows more than I would actually see them in reality. That's crazy. I got to see gay folks in the cartoons when we've never, ever seen anything sexual in the cartoons. There might have been some sexual innuendo, but it wasn't anything that was outside the parameters of what we see every day. So now we're being, groomed to think that this stuff is okay, and by things like people like Mark Lamont Hill, who got to Mark Lamont Hill, and made him, squeezed him to start, pushing for this gay inclusion stuff. Who did this? You got people who you don't even know that these people are trans people, and they're going on speaking like as if they're a woman, to these guys about women's issues. A trans person should be talking about women's issues. A woman should be talking about women's issues, because I don't care how much he thinks, that he is a woman. He'll never be a woman. He just is basically giving you a facsimile or a belief of what he believes being a woman to be. He says, I'm a woman. I've always been a woman. You can't say that, because you were not born a woman. You don't know what a woman is. You don't have any of the genetics of a woman. You don't have the cells of a woman. You don't have anything that identifies you as a woman. Yet you feel like you're a woman because you're looking at women all your life. You grew up looking at women and idolizing women and wanting to be a woman. So you learned how to strut like a peacock. You learned how to act like a woman. You learned what it was for women to come on to men and to be attracted to men. And you began to emulate this the best way you knew how. But you are not what you are emulating. I could watch a dog run around the house all since it was a puppy, since I was a kid. I might act like a dog, but I'm not a dog. It just doesn't work that way. But we are being told as a society here, especially in the United States, that we're supposed to accept this, and if we don't, then there's something wrong with us. If this isn't the Matrix, I don't know what is. We're being stuck with a cattle prod to say this is okay when we're saying that it's not. This isn't okay. So we get shocked. We get shocked until we say this is okay. I say that, this is supposed to be a place where we're supposed to be able to have free speech. We're supposed to be able to say what we want to say and, conduct ourselves in a way that is conducive to reality and civility. But this is a hot mess. This is truly a hot mess. And we are being asked to act like this is reality. And it's not. I don't know how we're supposed to, to deal with this. But I think I have another show to show you guys, to let you listen to this. No, I don't think I have it. But, this week we've been dealing with the everybody, the fallout from Jonathan Majors wearing, the thigh-high boots and, the Pimp Daddy shawl and stuff on him and everything. And it, we're asking our questions about why our men are being characterized as these soft, moist dudes, in these effeminate type photo shoots, when the white folks have their guys dressed up like 007. I mean, you don't see the guy that plays Superman, you don't see him out dressed up in no female stuff, dressing up in a dress or whatever the case may be. But it seems like, I used to think that, nah, this wasn't a thing. But if you go back and you look, they're always putting black men in a dress. Always. They had the Chicago Bears coach dressed up like a guy and had one of his players dressed up like a girl. And it was a black guy, You just go by and you just see time after time, just instance after instance of people being, black men being put in dresses. And it's crazy. And it needs to stop. I just I do not understand why this is a thing, but it continues to be a thing with our folks, and nobody's up in arms about it. Nobody. There's no none of the people think that this is an issue, that it's anything that we need to be concerned with. It's just all accepted, and it's all good. And this is crazy. So I just don't understand it. So there's another article with this. I'm gonna show that to you. Okay. This shows a little bit better picture of them. And the person here, estheticians don't have to wax male genitalia against their will. BC tribunal rules. Okay, so then transgender woman loses complaint against estheticians who refuse her services. So as you can see, this person doesn't look like a woman at all. This is some big guy that's identifying as a woman. Okay, so here it is. Goes through the story again. British Columbia Human Rights Tribunal has ruled against the transgender woman who brought 15 discrimination complaints after she was refused wax services at more than a dozen beauty salons. Jessica Yanev, who identifies as a female but has male genitalia, contacted the businesses through Facebook again, basically setting up all of these services. And they were for a service that were exclusively for a woman. Okay. So it says, but according to a Tuesday decision, human rights legislation does not require the service providers to wax a type of genitals they are not trained and have not consented to wax. The estheticians who appeared at the hearing testified they declined to wax Yanev's for various reasons, including religious grounds, personal safety concerns, and lack of training when it came to male genitalia. Okay. So also, I guess Miss Yanev testified at the Human Rights Tribunal after being refused Brazilian wax. But yeah, I'm sure that was entertaining as well. Okay. Says the tribunal also heard from a waxing expert who testified that waxing female versus male genitalia required different training, and that an untrained person attempting to wax someone's scrotum could seriously injure the client. The legal advocacy organization Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms represented 5 of the estheticians respondents. Okay, so you have a person out here, some Oriental lady out here, don't believe in the hype. Trans activism is misogyny. Okay, yeah, I can get with that. All right, so the self-identification does not erase physiological reality, said Jay Cameron of the Justice Center. No woman should be compelled to touch male genitalia against her will, irrespective of how the owner of the genitals identify. Okay, so that's the same as the last article. So let's see what else is in here. The ruling also found that Yanev engaged in improper conduct by misleading the tribunal, by being untruthful, and by engaging in extraordinary behavior and scurrilous attacks it was also noted that she brought most of the 15 complaints against women described as not white while expressing racial anonymity on social media. And in her testimony, Yanov was ordered to pay $2,000 to each of the 3 respondents. Good. So she was also, he was also fined. So as you can see, I think there's a playbook that's being passed around where they're going out and they're trying to get these services from certain people who are exclusively for females. And they're trying to get in to show that these people are somehow discriminating against them if they don't allow them to get the same services that the women get. So again, ladies, you better stand up for the rights that you guys fought for, because basically you got men who are identifying as women that are coming in and trying to take advantage of all of the goodies that you guys have gotten. You've amassed a nice stack of goodies, and now you got a bunch of these she-he's coming in, and they're trying to get some of you guys goodies, and it just doesn't look good. Sounds like a problem for y'all. I would think that you would probably, go ahead and plant your flag in the ground and say, hey, real women, paid for, died for, fought for these rights. And, if you want to do that, then you guys need to have a section over there that exclusively deals with your unique situations. Because like I said, trans rights are now civil rights. They're not black people anymore. They don't have anything to do with black people. They're all about trans folks now. Women's rights are trans rights now. So all of these issues are now being basically usurped. But I think it's just we're headed towards some dark times. But you guys tell me what you think in the comments, and whether I'm overreacting or whether it's something that we should care about, because I see a steady progression of the loss of territory with regard to these people and the things that they're requesting of society. And if we don't give it to them, then we're considered to be homophobes and people who hate them and things like that. And that's just not the case. Day after day, there's story after story after story of questionable activity from these people, and nobody does anything about it. Nobody cares about it. They're just sweeping it our way, sweeping it under the rug, because if you say anything about it, you're an evil person. Meanwhile, you still have these issues around here dealing with race issues and discrimination of black people. Black people are still being killed in the street, not being apprehended and taken into custody and being taken to trial. Hell, even on the cowboy movies, they took people to trial. They didn't just shoot people out in the damn street unless they fought against them. But now you have a bunch of people who are afraid to do their jobs, and they basically just shoot people and ask questions later. So we've got issues, real issues to deal with. And this is not it. This stuff needs to be where it used to be. And that was with the 0.07% of the people who make up that percentage in society. But the more you put this out here, the more you advertise this, you're going to see, I'm going to pull up some other stuff where it shows that basically just by seeing this stuff that people are starting to associate with this ideology. Because people are impressionable, whether we like it or not. People are impressionable by propaganda, by visualizations that say that they give them the feeling that they have an option other than being one sex or the other. And it's starting to have an effect on our society. We've got declining birth rates. We've got a lot of issues that are going on here that need to be addressed, that are we're being distracted from by this. And this is not that important. Nobody's out here just rounding up these people and doing stuff to them, but pretty much they can go do whatever the hell they want to do. They can have So, we're trying to make this stuff socially acceptable. It's not socially acceptable. So we have to, we need to do something about this. We need to stop this and have this, look at this the way it needs to be looked at. But anyway, you guys, let me know what you think in the comments, and we will see what we can do about this issue that keeps popping up. And you guys, if you think I'm wrong, like I said, if you think I'm right or I'm going overboard with this, you guys just let me know, and we can talk about it again, like I said, in the comments. And I appreciate you guys coming and hanging out with me, and have a good night, day, evening, whenever you listen to the show. Please hit that notification button and like, share, and subscribe too. I appreciate you guys a lot.